Ouch. Oh boy, I wasn't supposed to press that yet. Now let's go with it. Hey everybody, we're going to go live here. Welcome everyone to the Lost World Museum. I'm John Adolfi. We're going to start a little early tonight. Maybe we'll go a little over, okay? This, for those of you that are on here, I'm going to tell a little story. I just got this in the mail for one of the videos that I'm going to be doing. And so I'll give you a little sneak preview. And I read this account twice, and I don't know where I read it. And I'm trying to find it. Forgive me, okay? But I'll tell you the story the best I remember it. I've told it maybe before in the past, but I finally got something to demonstrate it. So they wanted to see just exactly the fossilization process. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the live. They wanted to see how the fossilization process really works. Now, when you go online and you look up fossilization, how it works, what you're going to see is, hold on just one second. You have to forgive me. I pressed the button early. I was supposed to press it at 7 and it was like 13 till. So, okay. So here we go. They wanted to see if the fossilization process that you see in the books, the geology books, paleontology books, works. So they took a cage similar to this. They opened it up, and I don't know how many fish, but they put a bunch of fish in there. Okay, closed it, secured it. Then they went somewhere where there was mud, a lot of mud, and they buried in the ground 6 feet, 6 feet in the mud. I almost think that it was near a dam or something like that, but I could maybe getting the stories mixed up. But I remember numbers. 6 feet is what they buried it. Now, when you go online and you look into fossilization, how it works and whatnot, you'll find that something goes and dies, it goes to the bottom, and then it gets covered over with silt. You don't question it, but this is the time to question it. Does a layer of silt encapsulate a fish, let's just say, so that it preserves it? Here's another thing you don't really think too much. It preserves it so that it can have all of its tender parts. All of its tender parts are preserved. Look, and I'll get back to this in just a second. You put those fish in a layer of mud, okay? It ain't going to stick around for much. Maybe some of you had a fish that died in a tank, maybe over the weekend, and you didn't notice it until Monday, and then you saw what the fish looked like in water, you know? And it just doesn't, yeah. You're very welcome, Chris. Look at this one. This is in the same limestone. So another fish gets buried, half an inch underneath this one. Look at it. That's like a minnow. What does a minnow do when it dies? Have you ever seen a minnow dead when it's just laid out, laying in the water, laying in some mud? how long does a minnow live? Or how long does a minnow remain intact in order to be able to encapsulate it so that all the detail remains? Never questioned it before. Never looked at fossils like that and asked those questions. Hey, how come, what up? Okay. And we're going to do unboxing in just a second. So they took this and they buried it 6 feet in the mud. And I think it was, I don't know if I can't remember, 6 days later, 6 weeks later, I'm not sure which, I don't think it really matters. When you bury something 5 or 6 feet in the mud, that's way beyond what they're showing you online when it comes to a fossil, or I'm sorry, an organism or some kind of fish, or it doesn't matter what it is, being buried. You're not seeing it being buried in 5 feet. There is no mechanism other than something catastrophic that buries a fish in 5 feet of mud. So it's kind of like giving the benefit of the doubt and going beyond what we normally see in nature and we normally see as it's demonstrated in the videos and photos that explain fossilization. They unburied this cage in the mud a few days or a few weeks later. You know what they found in the cage? They found nothing. They found absolutely nothing. Should that surprise us? Well, some who are critics of this channel and what I'm suggesting here will roll their eyes and say, well, of course we wouldn't. Look, you can't have it both ways. It's almost like, and I'm not saying the motives are there to do this, it's almost like they're hiding this information in plain sight. They will demonstrate or show a fossil being covered very slowly, and yet at the same time, they will admit that fossils form quickly. The fossilization process, that is to get it to where it begins its process, that is the burying, has to be very profound and quite honestly, very catastrophic. They will admit that, and yet you won't find that unless you go to a doctoral, not doctoral, but a collegiate geology course. Then you, and I don't know how they segue into it. I don't know how they introduce that idea. I don't know what, if it's like, and some fossils form quickly. Catastrophism is what they should say is this. Catastrophism is something that we avoided from 1800 to 1980. For 120 or 50 years, we avoided that word catastrophism. And if they were honest, they would say, because it gives the creationist viewpoint some leverage, because their worldview is punctuated total global catastrophism on so many different levels and so many different geological processes over a year's time, and then everything settled down and dried out. And sure, there was some reverberations afterwards, and I'm sure there was lots of earthquakes as the earth was simmering down. Oh, you're welcome. I may not have 100% the truth, but I'm sharing with you what I'm gathering and what I'm putting together here, what I understand to be the case, okay? And you don't have to be a genius to figure it out. Okay, that was the fish story, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing more of that in subsequent videos, not lives, All right, so let's get to our box opening, all right? So let me move you guys back just a little bit, all right? Let me just, and my table, by the way, I just got casters on it, so it moves about, this thing weighs about 300 pounds. It's unbelievable. I'm going to lower it down a little bit because this box is kind of big. Now, in this box, okay, in this box, according to the shipping label, we have two. Oh, this box is going to be so cool. Guys, if you're watching this after the replay, keep watching, because the stuff in here, I've only seen photos of it. So we've got aragonite cloth. You'll see. So what they are is they're washcloths that were in Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic. They were put in the mineralized water, and calcite, aragonite solidified it. You'll wait and see. A replica pot. Wait till you see this pot. There's a dinosaur handle on it, and the pot is from the original pot that is at the Creation Evidence Museum. I'll explain in just a little bit. A modern calcite from a bridge. So, bridges have a drip drip and a little bit of concrete, and voila, you have the working or the makings of a stalactite. So we're going to see that. The replica battery, we're going to see a replica of the Baghdad battery, the 2,200-year-old battery. By the way, batteries were not invented until Volta did in 1799. And then we have a petrifying well souvenir. This is going to be cool. Let's get started. All right. This is coming from Canada, and wait till I've got so many packages over on the other side of this camera. My wife is in Calgary, Alberta right now in the Badlands. She was there yesterday. She's collecting more of these artifacts from this collector who is a museum owner, and he has graciously sold these artifacts to us, and you guys get the benefit of seeing them. And now you're seeing them for the first time, even before we do a video on the subject. Let me see if I can't lower this down. That's as far as I can lower it. All right, let's do this. One at a time. All right, this is, let me see. I'm going to pull these packages out one at a time, very carefully, because some of these things may be delicate. Ooh. Stalactite from an old bridge. Okay, that's that. Got another box here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5. Now we can get rid of this big box, and then we can deal with just the smaller boxes, and then I can raise this thing up some, just a little bit. Okay, so this is mineralized washcloths from the Czech Republic, I believe this is. And let's take a look at this one. All right, welcome AR. This may take a few minutes, so if you guys are in a hurry, you may want to watch this on the replay, but if not, I'm glad you're here. I'll try to open these up as much. He does a fantastic job of shipping these things, because some of them are a little bit fragile. But I got to be careful. And yes, these don't come cheap. I'll tell you that right now. So our day job allows us to be able to make these purchases so that we can show you guys what we got, which I find interesting. Now, okay, let me just be real, I was going to say the word gingerly. This is a washcloth that was folded over. There's the fold right there. And then it was placed in mineralized water. Oh, okay. No, this was folded 4 times. I see. Check it out. It's folded in half, then folded in half. Now, what's the point of this? It just shows you that when the conditions are right, alluvial or sedimentary rock forms quickly. And that's what is demonstrated here. Is it a perfect demonstration? Maybe more perfect than I can explain. Obviously, this is not going to convince dyed-in-the-wool atheistic geology enthusiasts that insist that the Earth is 4.51 billion years old, or should I say life on Earth is 3.5 billion years old, and that everything was formed over the course of, geologically speaking, hundreds of millions or billions of years. This is like 6 weeks. 6 weeks, friends. 6 weeks in this thing, this towel folded 4 times, basically either it gets coated thoroughly with the minerals and holds its shape. Sometimes these minerals get in there that are so profound they actually permineralize the item that it's coating, or shall I say infusing. And permineralization is just a big geological word. I didn't even know a permineralization. It's a type of fossilization that goes in and surrounds, the molecules with crystal molecules. And so let's say the cloth is still, and I don't know if this is permineralized. I'll in subsequent videos, I'll get a little more detail from the person who sold these to us. But just for the sake of discussion, if it is permineralized, it means that the cloth is still there. It's just that it's surrounded by the minerals thoroughly, not just on the outside, and hardened. Dinosaur bones are permineralized. A lot of them are. They're not entirely, and you ready for this? The opposite of that? And I didn't know this. It's called petrification. You hear petrified trees, but what you don't know is that when it's petrified, it means that it's completely stone, meaning that there is no molecules of carbon or any other life material that was at once it. It's gone completely and replaced with minerals that become stone. Okay. Let's take a look at a stalactite that comes from a bridge. Now, we're told that stalactites and stalagmites take a long time to form. Drip, 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 right? Well, it's not time that stalactites and stalagmites need. It's the right conditions, and it's also how much mineralization is going on in that in the water when it's doing its thing. Now, what they won't tell you, and I don't know if it's because they're purposely holding it back. I'm going to guess that they're not. This is just how they understand and explain it. Those places where you go, like Howe Caverns or Mammoth Cave or Carlsbad Caverns, what they don't tell you is that in order to create those big stalagmites and stalactites, you have to have big water in there. There isn't this drip, drip, and then you have this huge, no. There's a profound amount of water that's in there creating these things. The question is, how long does it take? Now, I don't have the time frame on this bridge, but whatever we have here, it is not hundreds of thousands or millions of years. Let's take a look. Maybe you've seen them in bridges before. I don't know. Based on observational science, okay, how long do you think they would say, and this has got to be, let's see, this would have been, like, let's say maybe this was at an angle. That's a good 2 inches. You want to look it up online, how long it takes 2 inches? 2 inches would be almost 4 centimeters. I think a centimeter is what? 100 years? 1,000 years? Is it 2 centimeters for 1,000 years? It's hard to find good, solid measurements of time when it comes to the formation of fossils, stalactites and stalagmites. They do give, well, anyway, let me just leave it at that. So this was taken from a bridge. It's not very old. And look what happens when you have the right conditions. If I said I took this out of Mammoth Cave and they didn't catch me, if I did, you wouldn't know the difference between Mammoth Cave and underneath a bridge. From Old Bridge in NB. I'm not sure where that is. We'll have more information and more details on these forthcoming. But tonight, what we wanted to do is just unbox some of these little stars that are going to be starring in the movies. Okay, this is the battery replica. Okay, you've heard of the Baghdad battery. It's 2,200 years old. What were they using batteries 2,200 years ago for? Well, their best guess is they used it for electroplating, because that they know, because you need electricity for electroplating, and they were electroplating things in the Middle East. And so this right here is a replica of the Baghdad battery. Let's take a look at it. Oh, okay. Now, Volta was the first person to have, quote unquote, invented the battery, the chemical battery, in 1799. And yet, they found, I think, 8 of these in Iraq, and it had a ceramic, clay pot, and it had tar or bitumen here. It had a copper sleeve and an iron copper sleeve inside, and then an iron rod in the middle. And you could fill it up with citric acid, and I think they were getting a 1.2 volts out of it as a result of that. We'll talk more about this too. All right, what's our next? We got 2 more, guys. 2 more tonight. All right, I'm not sure what this one is, but let's take a look at it. Vintage souvenir. Again, I got to be careful. Some of these things have traveled all this way from Canada, and I hate to, because I'm excited to get these things open too. Here we go. Oh, I think this is from the petrifying well. Here's some postcards from that. And let me see which, there's a couple of them. There's one in France. And let me see if this is Mother Shipton. It might be Mother Shipton. Boy, it looks like Christmas has been here with these packages all stacked up. You know how you open up the packages and you got wrapping paper all over the living room? That's what it's starting to look like here, but this should be interesting. I can't remember what this is exactly, but it was mineralized water. It just hung from a cliff, and mineralized water dripped over this. And what is this? Oh, I'm going to get more information on this, but I think these are ferns. These are like living ferns. Look at this. Those were living ferns at one time, and they dripped all over it, and I'll get the whole story, the circumstances, everything. Yeah, people have complained about the vertical video. I get it. Here's the back side of it. But this is all YouTube's thing with the vertical video for lives. They promote it on the, I guess, on the shorts page, but we may be going to horizontal at some point when we get our multi-camera setup. That way I can show you things with a multiple camera push button, you know. Here is the perfect setup for it. Anyway, as far as this, we got one more, guys and gals. One more. And this is, oh, this is the dinosaur replica. Oh, this is going to go well with the what allegedly, what looks like to be dinosaurs in Renaissance paintings, which I've done a little bit on. And this right here comes from, I believe, Cambodia, Vietnam area. And the original is at the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Okay, let me show you this one. And it's really kind of interesting because, look, if in fact this really is the real deal, meaning that the original pot is from the 11th century or 13th century, they shouldn't know what, you know, and if it's not a fake, let me just say that, okay? It's not a fake. They should not know what a dinosaur looks like. They didn't have that information. So when they made this pot and made this handle on the pot, they should have not made it look like a dinosaur because they don't have that information. Oh, this is beautiful. I've seen the original at the Creation Evidence Museum. They did a fine job in replicating this. Friends, either this is a really clever fake that was done, you know, in the last 100 years, okay? Or there were really, maybe a smaller version of like this brontosaurus-like or sauropod, if you want to call it, creature. And that they had them around like elephants, you know, just had them around. Whether they were pets, whether they did work for humans, or whether they were in the wild, whether they were friendly, or whether they were a menace to society, we won't know that. There you have it. All right. Hey, one last thing before we take off, and that is text. That's right. We have a text line, and some of you that are on here right this very moment came on as a result of this text number. It's free for the United States and Canada. Just text me and say, hey, John. And I'll say, hey, Bob, hey, Mary, welcome to the text group. So if you're watching this in the replay or watching this right now, go ahead and text this number, 315-509-9075, and it's free. And what you'll do is you'll get a text from me every once in a great while promoting maybe the next video, or sometimes I do a giveaway too. I enjoy doing that. I'll do a quiz. First one gets this, and everybody's like, I wasn't quick enough. But we have a lot of fun. And we have like, I don't know, something like 260 people that are receiving this currently. All right, so there you have it. Okay. Very good. And I want to thank everyone for coming on. I guess anything is possible. Well, I have... all right, guys. Thank you. And please feel free in the comments. I read the comments. Most of the time I try to answer them. Just remember, where did we come from? Apes, aliens, or Adam? You guys have a great afternoon, evening, and we'll see you next time on TikTok, YouTube Live, and or one of our videos. Bye-bye.